In this video, I wanted to go over a pretty intense mirror match that I played going second with Ruby Amethyst, and this is basically the tier 0 lists on both sides of the field here. Opening hand, we're going to put back our Uninkables and hope to draw the 1-drop. Thankfully, we do get the Olaf. The link for the deck list that I'm using is also in the description. It's totally up to you if you want to use the Pinocchio as a tech option. I think it can be very useful if you're in an aggro heavy meta, but if you're not, then you might be better off subbing it out for like another Cusco and an Ursula or something if you're not on 3 Ursula already. To start off, my opponent inks and plays a 1-drop Pascal, so they're opting for a bit of a different 1-drop package than what we usually play. The Olaf is going to be unable to challenge that Pascal if it quests, if the opponent puts a second character on board, unless I can out the second character, and you know what, I might be able to if it has 2 toughness since I have the Teeth and Ambitions in hand. Fortunately, they go for the snake play, which is pretty strong. They get the Pascal back to hand, and usually this means they're going to ink it next turn. So normally I wouldn't like to ink the Cusco because it is actually pretty useful in the mirror match, but I want to keep the rest of my hand just in case. I want to see if they're going to opt to replay the Pascal, but odds are they're likely going to ink it. And so Teeth and Ambitions in this matchup doesn't really do all that much, but they do opt to play a Mini Surfer on turn 3, and in the mirror match, the aggro aspect of the Ruby Amethyst deck definitely can be the, I guess, advantage winning play, if that makes sense. Like getting those surfers out early, getting the early lore in from them can make or break the matchup, because it is essentially a race. You're playing until 15 lore, and then it's just about who has spellbook, who has goats, who has the loops to close the game out. And so my opponent starts off extremely strong, playing perfectly on curve with the 1-drop Pascal, 2-drop Snake, 3-drop Minnie Mouse, and 4-drop Goat. Now, we can't complain either, because aside from going second, our plays are almost identical here. We've basically mirrored the opponent's play. The only difference is instead of a goat, we'll likely drop a rabbit here, and I actually value the card draw more anyways. So this is where we can start clawing back some advantage. We sing the Teeth and Ambitions and put 2 damage on most likely the snake, and then put 2 damage on Minnie Mouse so that our Minnie Mouse can take out their Minnie Mouse. Now this leaves us with a bit of an advantage, being the one with the Minnie Mouse now that can quest, but the opponent is kind of running away with the lore a little bit. They're just going to continue to quest here and then play their own rabbit to draw a card, ink a Maleficent, and pass turn. So while we do look to have stabilized just a little bit, we are still a little bit behind in terms of the lore count, which can be very dangerous, especially if the opponent throws down a spellbook. Then we're really going to be on a timer. Now they do only have 3 cards in hand and we have 5, but we do have to still ink for this turn. My Mim Snake opts to take out the goat because I don't want to risk them cycling it there, and then we're just going to quest with the Mini and the rabbit, drop down the fox to get another draw off the rabbit, and take out their snake just because I can't afford to even let them quest an extra turn. That's how important it is for the lore race here. So we drew into an Olaf, and that's fine. That's going to be ink for next turn. Let's see what the opponent opts to do. Inking a friend indicates to me that they probably have some very good cards in hand and or uninkables that they don't want to waste. And unfortunately, not playing the Olaf during the last turn doesn't hedge me against a Lady Tremaine coming down for that protection, and so I end up losing my Minnie Mouse, which in hindsight is a misplay. You want to try to always hedge against the Lady Tremaine play, but unfortunately we're kind of in a really bad spot now. So we're going to be able to go ahead and play the rabbit and then ink the Olaf, play a snake to bounce back the rabbit, and the opponent's going to go up to 13. There's nothing we can do. We're hoping to draw into like a Be Prepared or something to clear the board, or see if what the opponent wants to do on this turn, see if they end up overextending or anything, but most likely not because they're aware of the Be Prepared. So as expected, they're going to go ahead and cycle through the fox to get their Tremaine back for another drop later on. And I'm just like, okay, I have to take care of this rabbit eventually, so we're just going to crash into it. Our snake does live, but again, we're getting in really dangerous territory here as the opponent is on 13 lore now, and they're going to go to 14 with the fox. I'm going to opt to continue to try to draw cards because in this matchup, whoever has more options usually will end up coming out on top. So the continued card draw here is really valued, and we have a bit of a wide board. unlikely for the opponent to drop a Be Prepared if they have it. They have 5 cards in hand. We know one of them is a Lady Tremaine. They're likely going to ink a card per turn, so they're basically down to 3 cards and a Lady Tremaine here. The Fox is just going to keep questing. Yeah, there's no point in the opponent to challenge because they have the tempo and the advantage. They opt to Be Prepared my board there, which I found really strange, and I think this might have been the turning point in the match for me against the opponent, because they just let go a heavy resource in the Be Prepared, and they didn't really get much value off of it. I drew off my rabbit, and like I said, they kind of wasted a Be Prepared there, and they lost tempo because of it. So they're going to go ahead now and drop a Maleficent. I established Spellbook and Maleficent on my own. They ink a Maui, drop Fox to bounce back the Maleficent, and then they'll likely just pass. So we know Maleficent and Lady Tremaine in hand. We can opt to drop the Pinocchio and the Maui here to take out the opponent's Fox, or drop our own Fox as well to bounce something back. I'm really thinking what I want to do. I definitely don't want to waste the obviously the Be Prepared or the Maleficent Dragon here. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't think Fox is the right play here. I think the right play is Maui, unless I was afraid of a Be Prepared and I wanted to preserve that Pinocchio, and so bouncing it back there. But yeah, I think Mauiing there would have been the correct play. I guess the in hindsight, like, the only benefit here is that I have the Pinocchio and Maui from another play, but now the Pinocchio is already revealed, so the opponent knows we have it. They go ahead and continue to not ink and drop a Maleficent and a Pascal here. And the Pascal is a bit of a problem to deal with, but at least we can throw a mini Surfer on board that can take it out right away, but it will still quest for 1, as will this Maleficent if we don't try to answer it. So I'm kind of thinking what the best option is here. And I do have to be wary of, like, the Lady Tremaine. If I end up questing with my Maleficent, it being exerted, they crash into it, and then whatever I have left on board will get Tremained. Do they have another Be Prepared? That's another problem. So you can see me really trying to think through what are the potential lines of play that the opponent might respond to if I do, like, Minnie Mouse, if I do Pinocchio and Maui. Like, it's hard to think, but at the end of the day, you just got to make a decision. So you can see me play the Minnie Mouse Surfer, and then play the 1-drop Minnie Mouse as a hedge against the Lady Tremaine, so not making the same mistake as last time. And this still allows us to use the Spellbook. At 10 lore, the opponent's going to opt to double quest with the Maleficent and the Pascal. And I'm really curious to see what they're going to do. If they drop an Ursula, we could be in trouble. Okay, they drop a Fidget here, which is a direct answer to the Minnie Mouse, but we're going to go ahead and use that Minnie Mouse in order to take out the opponent's Pascal, and then just trade off with the opponent's Maleficent, most likely, because we're at risk of the opponent kind of running away with this game, so we have to be very, very careful. Yeah, it's really hard. Do I drop the Maleficent here? Okay, gonna ink the Maui since I have a Fox to use with the Pinocchio now. And yeah, we end up dropping the Maleficent, and I'm just like, I know this is going to be another Be Prepared here. Without a doubt, right? Yeah. So we were threatening 5 lore on board to instantly catch up to the opponent. Fortunately, we top deck a crab, and I'm like, do I want to play it or just preserve it? I probably should have played it, but again, it would have just got Tremaine, so what's the point? I'm going to have to play around that Tremaine eventually. Unfortunately, the opponent draws a Goat and an Arthur, but I mean, at this point, they must know I have Be Prepared, right? Because I haven't played a single one yet. So the Be Prepared gets the opponent to 18, and, you know, if they draw like another Goat, it's pretty much game. They're going to go ahead and drop yet another Arthur, and I'm going to now take down the Arthur with the Pinocchio into Fox play. So both Arthurs getting absolutely no value from the opponent's side, and this is why the Pinocchio loops can be very helpful as tech options in the Ruby Amethyst deck. The opponent drops their Tremaine and then passes turn, so we knew they had this. And again, we have the Pinocchio and the Maui, so you can just see how much value this Pinocchio has gotten and kind of saved me in multiple occasions here. The downside is we're just like a Spellbook or a Goat away from losing the game, but the opponent has gone through either 2 or 3 Goats, so the odds are against them to draw another one. They drop another Lady Tremaine, and I wasn't even thinking like about the lore here. I should have got rid of the Maui because I could have actually had game on board. Because if I draw into a Mim card, I think I quest with the Pinocchio, use Spellbook, that gets me to 17, play Goat. And if I had a Mim card, bounce to go back and replay it on 10 ink, so I would ink and do that. But I didn't draw into a Mim card anyway, so I think I could have only gone to 19. But the Maui here doesn't serve any purpose. The opponent ends up bouncing back their Tremaine with the Snake, and I'm going to put them on. I don't think you have another Be Prepared. And so I just go wide on the board here and pass turn. Their snake can only get to 19. If they drew goat, they have game. If not, they're going to have to deal with my board. They're going to go ahead and quest, and a third Be Prepared comes in, and I'm like, okay, that's, I guess, all right. They're going to go ahead and drop the Pascal, and my goodness, keeping that crab and that Teeth and Ambitions ever came in. Did it ever come in clutch? We're going to be able to drop crab here, use Teeth to take out the Pascal, and then use Spellbook for one. We know their last card in hand is a Tremaine, but it does not matter because Spellbook will win the game next turn. They have to draw a goat or have their own Spellbook. If they don't have either, they lose. They end up scooping it up, and that's the game.